What's going on YouTube? Brian Matthews here with Southern Pine Outdoors, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things. Actually, that's a lie. We're going to learn how to fix, once we find it, a broken extension cord. That's right. If this kind of video interests you, by all means hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you like anything to do with outdoors, hunting, fishing, trucks, UTVs, trailers, anything like that around the house. Like and subscribe. We've got a lot of videos coming your way. To start this video off, the first thing you're going to need, minus the cell phone, you got to have a cell phone. You're going to want electrical tape. You can pick this up at any hardware store. I bought this today. You're going to need a pair of wire cutters, wire strippers, and preferably some of these little connectors here on the cheap side. This whole kit right here cost me just around $8–9 at Lowe's. The other thing you're going to need are some actual wire cutters possibly, and then maybe a utility knife or a pocket knife of some sort to be able to strip the wires completely back. So those are the things that you need to effectively kind of splice and reconnect the wires inside of an extension cord. So let's get started and get set up, and we'll get this taken care of in just a second. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is obviously locate the bad spot in your wire. And then you're going to take your utility knife and cut back on either end. Now, I see that there's a little nick here as well, not too far from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just splice an inch or so past that other cut there, and basically cut through on one end and then come back about an inch past what we've already see there and cut that as well. Now here comes the hard part, basically cutting back the insulation that's around all of these wires without actually skinning the other wires. So you just want to take your time and be careful. I'm going to use the utility knife, try that out. Hopefully it'll work out pretty well for me, and we'll get those skinned up pretty quick. So I've got one of the wires kind of skinned up already. Get rid of this part of the insulation here for you so you can see a little bit better. Like I say, once you've kind of skinned the outside of that insulation, you've got these three other wires inside. They are color coded, so that makes it real nice when you go to merge the other end. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to want to kind of cut this insulation out around here and just kind of clean it up, and then you're going to skin these smaller wires with the kit wire strippers there. So I'm going to clean these up and do the same process for this one, and we'll open up this little packet here and go from there. So like I say, once you get both ends kind of skint back as far as the main insulation, the orange wire that you see there, you're going to be left with these three other wires in here, black, white, and green. Depending on what brand you have, they may be a different color. So we're just going to jump into the actual wire connection kit that comes all together. Like I say, I got this at Lowe's for around $8–9, and we're just going to open it up real quick. Try not to make a mess of all the little connectors. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to actually utilize the inside here of the wire stripper part. It actually is labeled, which is nice for some people, to be able to pull this actual insulation off. If I remember correctly, this should be 16 gauge. It might be 14. So I'm going to start with the higher number there, just to make sure I don't actually cut the wire itself. The other thing you want to make sure of is when you're actually doing this is how long are these connectors that you're using. Obviously you're going to have one wire going in on one side and the other wire going on the other side. So about halfway is how far you actually need to skin to be able to make a solid connection. So what I typically do is slide it in there and actually see how far it will actually go. So that kind of gives me a point of where I can actually go. And I know my fingers are all in the way and everything, so it's kind of hard to see, but that's about how far down you need to actually skin back. So we're going to do that real quick, and like I say, it's as simple as just grabbing the actual wire there, clamping down with the back end of the handles here, and kind of twisting around sometimes, and then just pulling loose. Now you can see that this type of wire is what they call stranded. It's not a solid strand of copper. It actually is stranded wire. So you just want to be careful not to poke yourself or get it underneath a fingernail. That's where it really hurts. So like I say, I'm just going to kind of follow suit with the rest of them as far as how far I actually skin it. And I'm going to actually try that 16 just to give it a little bit more and see. Yeah, I think it is. I think it is 14 gauge. I went and actually purchased a new drop cord, and it says that it is 16 gauge, which this one might be as well, but it being an older one, I just didn't want to take a chance. So the 14 gauge is a little bit bigger of a wire, like I say, to prevent you from actually pulling off. Now this one here, this white one that I just did, I didn't pull off as much as I did on the others. So basically what I'm going to do is just come back. It's okay if you mess up, and if you do mess up and cut too much off and you don't get a proper connection, you can always cut and redo it. That's the beautiful thing about this kind of work. So like I say, we're just going to start again on this second end. And like I say, these aren't the best wire strippers. For $8 to get the whole kit and everything, you're doing pretty good. But for all the electrical that I actually don't do, these work perfectly fine for the average homeowner. So like I say, once you got all your wires kind of crimped, kind of stranded and everything, or stripped of the insulation, what you're going to want to do is just kind of twist the actual strands together. That'll kind of give you a more solid connection inside each one of those connectors that you're using. And so basically all we're going to do now is we're going to grab one connector, slide it in, and then use the top end here, based on the numbers that you see, to actually crimp down on that particular. So you're gonna, like I say, crimp down on it pretty good. What I typically do is I try to just kind of get it on there first and then work my way around. So once you've got them crimped on one end, you're going to basically do the same thing with the other end, but you're going to match each color to each wire that you've got. So I'm going to start with the black wire there. And you're going to come in there with the connector and just crimp it down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this other side where I've already crimped it just to make sure. Like so. So basically we're just going to repeat the process for the next two wires, and we'll move on to the taping part of the process. So once you've got all the connections made, the next thing you're going to want to do is just kind of tug on each one just to make sure that they're solid connections and that they're not going to slip back out like you saw on that first one there. So the next part of the wrapping process, or wrapping this up process, is to actually get you some electrical tape. Now, some people will do it differently. Some people will just leave it like this and wrap a whole bunch of electrical tape around each one, or around the whole thing. What I like to do is actually individually wrap them and then wrap the whole thing around. I would recommend doing each individual one, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a little piece off and wrap it individually and kind of go from there. So like I say, just tear off a piece and get in there, and you're going to have to kind of, like I say, work it around each of the wires to make this work right. So once you've got them all individually wrapped, as you see, like I say, this isn't the prettiest of jobs, but it'll do for what I like to say for my purposes of using this around the yard and everything. So the next thing you're going to want to do, like I say, is just take your electrical tape, and I usually start about 1 inch away from the actual splice point, and just roll the electrical tape around all your connections. So I think that'll pretty much wrap it up for the repair portion of splicing an electrical cable together. Now the other thing that you're going to want to do, and this is just a tip, is run your hands down along the insulation that you've got, and you see places like this right here where the wire has just been nicked, or maybe it rubbed up against something that was rough. Basically what I would do with that situation, since you've already got the cord kind of sprawled out across your shop, is to go ahead and wrap those connections up. So I know I've got a few of those on this particular drop cord, so I'm just going to do that real quick, and we'll get you plugged in. Okay, I've got the cord completely patched, repaired, and it is now the moment of truth. So I'm going to grab the camera real quick and let y'all see this thing get plugged in to an outlet. So I've got my trusty outlet right here. I'm going to plug this thing in right there. As you can see, all this orange beautiful cable here. I'm going to find the other end of it, which is way over here. And like I say, I've got this little fan here that's been a part of my life back in college days. So I'm going to plug it in right here as best as I possibly can. And we're going to try this thing out and see if this fan actually kicks on. Hopefully it does. Oh man, we just fixed it. That's a beautiful sound. So, like I say, if you like those kind of videos, or these kind of videos where I am off the cuff, kind of putting things together in my own way, simple and easy. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment down below as to what we can do to better our channel and maybe even help somebody else out that's watching this video as well. So like I say, like this video, comment down below, and subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.